final story tonight is about climate change, or as polar bears call it, eviction. Now, climate change affects everyone, even Leonardo DiCaprio, and that's why last year he went to the UN to speak about climate change.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary General, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, and distinguished guests.
Hey, it was great to see Leo take time out from his busy schedule of banging supermodels on yachts to help save the planet. Now, you might be asking yourself, why are movie stars talking about climate change and not scientists? Well, Leo makes that clear.
I stand before you not as an expert, but as a concerned citizen.
He's a very concerned citizen. If it wasn't for melting ice caps, he and Rose might have lived happily ever after. Right now, the UN Climate Change Conference is taking place in Paris. Now, the last time these nations met was back in Copenhagen in 2009. To put that into an Australian political timeframe, that was 4 prime ministers ago. And yes, I'm counting Kevin Rudd twice there. Now, Rudd was our representative at that conference when the negotiations descended into what is best described as a man-made disaster. Now, Rudd allegedly said this during negotiations, and because I want to maintain our PG rating, I'll pronounce one of these words slightly differently, see if you can spot it. Those Chinese Fockers are trying to rat Fock us. Hey, if Meet the Fockers can get away with it, so can we. Now, it's unlike Rudd to use that kind of language, so we contacted him and this was his response.
Yeah. This language. Tell them to cancel this meeting at 6 o'clock, will you? I don't have the patience to do it. Is this a Chinese interpreter?
He speaks fluent Mandarin and French. Now, Australia arrived at the Paris conference having scrapped its emissions trading scheme. Now, you might be wondering, when did Australia ever have an emissions trading scheme? Well, you might remember it as the carbon tax, which was going to become an emissions trading scheme before it was repealed. The emissions trading scheme and the carbon tax were the different names for the same thing, and that's why we never saw them in the same room together. Like Barry Humphries and Dame Edna, or Peter Garrett and Lord Voldemort, or Novak Djokovic and a velociraptor. Not only did we scrap the emissions trading scheme, but Malcolm Turnbull just approved Adani Carmichael, the Southern Hemisphere's largest coal mine. The only way that Turnbull could better show how little Australia cares about emissions would be if he arrived to this conference in a Volkswagen. Now, when it comes to climate change, Australia has been pretty bad. When Santa comes to visit us in a few weeks, he'll probably bring us a lump of coal, which is only going to encourage us, to be honest. Now, our government just doesn't take climate change that seriously. Now, here is Immigration Minister Peter Dutton joking about rising sea levels in Port Moresby.
Anyway, it was a good meeting. When was it in Brisbane? Yeah. Time doesn't mean anything when you're about to be, have water lapping at your
What a punchline. Hey guys, why did the chicken cross the road? To get away from the rising sea levels, eh? That's great, eh? That's pretty good. Hey, got another one. Thank you. Hey, knock, knock, who's there? Rising sea levels got you again, eh? It's pretty good, that's pretty good. Good on you, Dutton. Probably the biggest punchline of that clip is the face that Peter Dutton makes when he realises there's a boom mic nearby. For someone who's just joked about global warming causing waters to rise, he's just found out what it feels like to be in hot water. To Peter Dutton's credit, at least he admitted that climate change exists because, according to a study by the University of Tasmania, nearly 1 in 5 Australians do not believe in climate change, making us the worst in the world for climate skeptics. Or, as climate skeptics see it, the best in the world. According to this study, being politically conservative, male, and having a low level of concern for the environment correlated with being a climate change skeptic. Cue Andrew Bolt. Pictured here engaging in a climate change debate. Or maybe he was looking for coal, I don't know. But hey, that wasn't Andrew Bolt, but this is Andrew Bolt here. Yeah, this is Andrew Bolt, pleasuring an imaginary Tony Abbott with his right hand and fondling an imaginary Rupert Murdoch with his left. That's Andrew Bolt. Andrew Bolt. Andrew Bolt is to journalism what Nickelback is to music. Somehow they have fans, and their fans are mostly white men. Now, Andrew Bolt seems completely unconcerned about rising sea levels.
Commission still does warn the seas could rise by half a metre by 2100, maybe even a whole metre. Panic.
Bolt is definitely one of Australia's biggest climate skeptics. If sea levels rise by 1 metre, that could be catastrophic in some parts of the world. But here is Bolt explaining why it's nothing to worry about.
Let me show you central Sydney today. Now, check what's left if the seas really do rise a metre and a bit more. Check again, Sydney today and in 2100, if the absolute worst really does happen. I think our great-grandchildren will survive that, don't you?
Because in Andrew Bolt's mind, the only place in the world is Sydney, because that's where his one true love, Tony Abbott, lives. Now, Andrew Bolt is unaware that there are places in the world that are not Sydney. I mean, he must think the Olympics was a one-off event that only happened in the year 2000. But why do nearly 1 in 5 Australians believe Andrew Bolt, but not the majority of scientists who keep telling us a man-made climate change exists? Well, one possible reason is that when scientists speak to us, our Australian tall poppy syndrome kicks into gear. We don't like being told what to do, like, don't boo Adam Goods or drink responsibly, you know? Like, hey, listen, science boy, I studied science up until year 9 and I know how to use a Bunsen burner, all right? So you don't tell me it's getting hotter, okay? Now, let's fire up another coal-fired barbecue, okay? Let's go. Now, look, if you're not going to listen to the scientists, that's fine. But at the very least, just don't listen to Andrew Bolt. I mean, if you're going to listen to someone who isn't qualified to talk about climate change, listen to Leonardo DiCaprio.